Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Get Schooled on Public Education podcast. My name is Brittany Baker, and remember, charter schools are public schools. We are live in Austin, Texas at the National Charter Schools Conference hosted by the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. And today I'm thrilled to be sitting next to one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Salome Thomas-EL, who is the head of school at Thomas Edison Public Charter School in Wilmington, Delaware. Principal L, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm honored to be here, and I can't wait to get schooled.
Yay! Yes. Okay, on top of that, Principal L is also an award-winning principal, teacher, and best-selling author and co-author. And his books include The Immortality of Influence, We Can Build the Best Minds of the Next Generation, Retention for a Change, Motivate, Inspire, and Energize Your School Culture. And then two that we have displayed here today, I Choose to Stay, A Black Teacher Refuses to Desert the Inner City. And that's the first book you ever wrote, right?
Yes, it is.
And we have one of your more recent books, Passionate Leadership, Creating a Culture of Success in Every School. All right, so Principal L, you delivered your keynote address in a room full of educators, school leaders, and advocates. How would you describe the energy you felt from the crowd when you were on stage?
The energy was powerful. I mean, as soon as I walked on stage, I could really feel that this is my family, that these were people that I know have worked for years to ensure that parents and children, have the opportunities that they deserve, good schools, good teachers, safe environments. And I almost felt like I was in church this morning because it was just very spiritual, because this work is a ministry. It's a calling. And definitely the energy was great. And then the energy on social media after, it was just overwhelming for me, the post on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and other places, just people just reposting some of my quotes, but also just talking about the energy in the room as well. So it definitely, for me, was the room where it happens, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And I had an opportunity to be in the audience and just see you. And it was just extremely magical the way you were up there.
Magical. Now,
Yes.
Did they pay you to say that?
No, I'm so serious.
Well, I appreciate that.
And one thing that stood out too was you mentioned Hub, so that students should be heard, understood, and feel like they have a sense of belonging.
Amen.
Yes, and that just really, really stuck out to me. And I imagine that could be the same way for teachers as well.
Yes,
Yes.
for sure. As a matter of fact, I'm going to adopt that, Brittany. I'm going to make. So you just gave me a good idea
Yeah.
that because it's so important.
Right.
What's good for kids, also good for teachers, because they're there in the schools every day together. One of the attendees came to me after I was done, and he said, "Man, conference is over for me." I said, "What's fun?" He said, "This morning was so great. I'm done. I don't have to see anything else." And I told him that's the highest compliment, and I really appreciate it, because that's what I really want. The standing ovations I don't need. What I need is people to walk away and say, because of you, I feel like I can make a difference in my community. I can hold on one more day. I can support teachers and create a school where they want to belong and feel heard. So it was definitely a great morning.
Yes, and then we are so excited that we had you for our conference audience, and now for our podcast audience. Let's get into our discussion, and we're going to dissect some recent news. So currently we are in a nationwide teacher shortage, and according to the National Center for Education Statistics, 45% of all public schools had at least one teacher vacancy as of October 2022. In May of 2023, the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools commissioned a national survey of a little over 1,200 public school teachers, both from district and charter schools, to learn more about teachers' opinions, motivations, and experiences as it pertains to staying or leaving the classroom. The full report will be available later this summer, but we have a sneak peek of some of the findings. In the survey, many teachers reported feeling overwhelmed, burned out, and worried or anxious. And 39% of teachers have either considered leaving the profession or are in the process of leaving right now. You have been an educator since 1987. Can you summarize how the teaching profession has evolved over the years, especially as it relates to keeping teachers in the classroom?
Hearing those numbers just make me nervous, stresses me, because I mean, it's true. So many are leaving or thinking about leaving. And as I stated earlier, I mean, when you're hiring teachers now, it's like the Hunger Games. It's a battle, it's a struggle, and I can understand why. I think we've got to get better as school leaders, as district leaders, as leaders in the community. Political leaders, everybody who impacts education. We have to get better at protecting teachers' time. We've got to make sure that we give them time for for their own mental health. Give them time to be there for their families. And I think that we get so much unpaid overtime from teachers, and it's very demanding. And the roles teachers have to do, 20, 30 years ago, a teacher could come in, teach, and go home and be mom, be dad, whatever. But now they're counselor, social worker, nutritionist, personal trainer, therapist. There's so much that we're asking our teachers to do. And finally, for me, is I think we've got to find a way to pay our teachers. We can pay professional athletes. We can build billion-dollar stadiums. We must find a way to compensate the people who are impacting the next generation of teachers and leaders. And I think until we do, we will see, teachers. We have 600,000 who've left in the last 3 years. And the tea kettle was boiling for decades. I think the pandemic was the tipping point. So we've got to get creative, change schedules, find alternatives to teachers who are working so much. They're burned out. And the stresses of classroom management and high stakes testing and all these other things. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about, which probably came out in the data as well. All of those, it's just too much for one plate. It's too much. And so we've got to find a way to protect their time.
Absolutely. And just diving deeper into what it will take to keep teachers, you mentioned a few strategies earlier, but what strategies would you recommend to school leaders to help retain teachers?
First thing is I'd schedule lots of time just to listen to teachers. One of the things that I've been a principal for 24 years and I'm still learning. And one of the things I'm learning is that teachers have never felt like they've been heard and they want to be heard. Listening can be healing. So I definitely want to make sure we should definitely be listening to our teachers, and also leaders out there, connect with other leaders, find out some of their best practices. I think that's an underutilized resource, is the mentorship and the connections that we can make with other leaders, to find out what are ways that leaders are supporting their teachers. Mentor teachers in the building, utilize those skilled teachers in the building to support those younger teachers, because people would think that the folks that are leaving are those veterans, but many of them are new to the profession, and it's just so overwhelming because their teacher prep program didn't prepare them for what they walked into. So we've got to find a way to make sure that we're connecting those new teachers with mentors or mentoring programs, and also just support groups for them after school, ways that they can connect with other teachers as well.
Yeah, I love those ideas. I actually used to teach myself. I taught kindergarten for 4 years before I started working at the National Alliance.
Yes.
So just all of those things you say just would have been amazing to kind of have those resources and those experiences when I was teaching. So let's talk about some of the difficulties teachers are experiencing in the classroom. 74% of teachers reported student behavior and discipline issues as a top challenge. How can school leaders better support teachers who are struggling with student behavior?
Yeah, that's an ongoing challenge. It's one that it's been an issue and it's increasing. I think what we have to do is we have to prepare. So we'll go back to teacher prep programs. We have to prepare teachers for some of those classroom management struggles and strategies. But also as leaders, we have to make sure that we're building strong relationships with families. So that way, when teachers, make that call about that student, there's not that resistance, that's not their defensiveness, and that comes. So I try to make sure, and often I'll be involved with teachers when they make those calls, especially those newer teachers. I'll sit in with you. I'll make the call first and try to support you. But also connecting with those students, finding teachers who've made connections with those students who have behavior issues earlier, because all behavior is communication. And the students who need the most love ask for it in the most unloving ways. So I try to be involved in the classrooms, getting to know those students to kind of help support the teacher and prepare them for some of the students, but also to be involved with the discipline process, because it's not easier, but I'm sure it's better and more fun when you have someone along with you when you're dealing with some of those issues, because they can be very stressful. I mean, you taught.
Yes.
You can imagine, I was reading something the other day when someone said they were trying to gain admission into somewhere, and they said, well, do you have your teacher ID? They said, no, but I have an email from an angry parent. They said, that'll work. So, it can be a struggle, it can be a challenge. And we have to find ways to support the teachers with building relationships with students, because I think that is a key for our educators.
Absolutely, definitely. And moving to the topic of motivation, 55% of charter school teachers say that they are more motivated now than when they initially entered the profession. So how do you think the charter school model plays a role in the satisfaction of teachers?
Wow. First of all, I need those teachers to come work in my school. They're motivated. I would, my guess would be that teachers appreciate the flexibility in the charter school. They appreciate the opportunity to be creative. And not that you can't have that in other, traditional schools, but I think in charters, the whole idea behind being a charter is that you're comfortable being different. You're comfortable being innovative and being flexible. And creativity is so important in building positive school cultures. Sometimes it gets missed. We talk about resilience and all these other, and relationships, but creativity is our students are so creative, and teachers are creative. Mm-hmm. And you can't be creative married to a state test, so I think that in charters, we've kind of found a way to kind of inspire teachers. And I think that's why they find that satisfaction to be a little higher. There are many people who think they're tired, but really they're uninspired. See, there's another rhyme for you. But the key is, I believe that as they go about the work, they're finding the flexibility and the joy in the schools with that creativity, which I think makes for a much more successful environment.
Let's talk about one of your recent books, Passionate Leadership, Creating a Culture of Success in Every School. And I would imagine that has something to do with the joy that you were just speaking of. Yes. What inspires you to write this book? And what's one step school leaders can take right now to improve their school culture?
And I wrote this book with Dr. T.J. Vary and Dr. Joseph Jones, who are both district level leaders, in Delaware, where I am. And we just wanted to inspire and motivate and energize leaders to motivate and inspire their staff. I was just meeting so many leaders who were just telling me that they were worn out. It was tough. Teaching is hard, but being a leader, a school leader is tough work too. And we just wanted to find some strategies and some ways to kind of inform educators and especially leaders. Because we want teachers to think like leaders in the classroom as well, but school leaders to think beyond the traditional baby shower. So people say, oh yeah, I celebrate my teachers. We have baby showers, we have the wedding shower. We've got to go beyond that. We've got to connect. When we write notes, and teachers love notes. You write notes for teachers. Be very specific. Now, don't just say great job. The same way we teach teachers to give feedback to students, as administrators, we should be giving that same descriptive feedback. That's that compassionate, candid feedback. Just tell them, I love the way you've built these relationships with these young people. I saw you in the hallway. I just see the smiles on their faces. I see you at bus duty. Sending messages to them. But also, again, I go back to my whole teacher appreciation. In our school, all year we're doing things where we try to order food or deliver a snack, or just I cover a class. And I go in and I'll cover a class for a teacher. Now it's hard because some of these children can give an aspirin a headache, right? So it can be challenging. But the fact that I'm willing to come in and take on that challenge to give a teacher maybe 30 minutes to go and sit in a room with a veteran teacher and watch that teacher, maybe go and do some small group work, it really, really lets the teacher know that they are appreciated and their time, is valued. So anything like that where we can find ways to just create and free up time, for teachers. Come in an hour late. We create these little programs where teachers can come in an hour late or leave an hour early. Most times they don't take advantage of it, but just the fact that you value that and you give that to me, maybe I can go home and help my elderly mom an hour early. Maybe I can stay with my new baby an hour later. Those kinds of things I think people really, the money's important. I often talk about we need to pay teachers more, but also protect their time and give them opportunities to spend time with their families. I think they truly, truly appreciate that.
Absolutely. And it's truly admirable how long you've been in education. 36 years and counting.
Yes.
What is your main reason for staying?
You just made me feel old with that. 36 years, has it been that long?
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I wake up every morning on fire. I wake up every morning ready to go. I get up 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the gym. I'm getting ready. I wake up with determination, go to bed at night with satisfaction, knowing that I'm giving to a young person the same way someone, gave to me. And I think that's what keeps me inspired, is thinking about those teachers who decades ago poured into me and said to me that you should become a teacher. I started my career in television, believe it or not. I didn't have a chance to talk about it today because they just gave me such a short amount of time, and then everybody kept clapping, using my minutes.
Yeah, they were using your minutes.
But
I'm guilty. I was clapping using your minutes. I couldn't help it.
I loved it. But yeah, I started in TV, and my teachers said, listen, you need to start teaching. And I went in and met with some students at a career day program and told them how teachers basically saved my life. And the kids said, if they helped you, how come you aren't a teacher? Changed my life. And I went in and quit my TV job and got the master's degree and gave it to my mother. And it was, good from there. So it's what keeps me going. Other people chose to stay years ago so that I could be in this position. So I'm choosing to stay as well. And in challenging times, these are some very challenging times that we're living in and working in now. In challenging times, the bravest act is choosing to stay.
Absolutely. And moving to your current school, how can our listeners help support Thomas Edison Charter School?
Well, they can, we have a national champion chess program at Thomas Edison, 2-time national champion. So we're always looking for people who want to donate and help. They can go right on our website. They can send checks to the school at Thomas Edison Charter School, 2200 North Locust in Wilmington, Delaware. They can reach out to me on social media. Principal.com is my website. As you know, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and everywhere. But even if they just want to send out a positive message, our students love to just hear and receive the love and support, from the community, as well as our teachers and educators, just to know we have the support of people, on the outside. But I'm a big fan of continuing the learning. So whenever I have the opportunity, and I talked about it today, is that we need, as a community, as a charter community, we need to make sure that we continue to connect with one another and learn with one another and stay in touch. Because as a community, it will only happen if we stay united, where we can lift everybody and ensure that we give every child what they need to become successful.
Well, Principal El, it was truly an honor to have you today on our podcast. We appreciate everything that you do for public education, for students, for families. Just truly thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, thank you to our guest, Dr. Salome Thomas-EL, aka Principal El, award-winning author and principal. I'm your host, Brittany Baker, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Get Schooled on Public Education.
Produced by Heartcast Media.